Today we're going to be talking about safety within the Innovation Center. It's important to note that whenever you're on this side of the Innovation Center, you're working with one of the staff that are in the lab. And so they'll have to come over here and actually work with you and observe you while you're working. While you're there, we need to make sure that you have nothing between like your fingertip and the top of your arm, so you need to pull back your sleeves as far as work goes. You need to make sure that if you have long hair that gets over your ears, that you can pull it back if you can, as far as that goes, along with accessories. So if you have a necklace, we want that tucked in your shirt. As with hoodies, if we can tuck those in your shirt, that'd be great. And then if we have any rings or anything like that, we're going to take those off to be able to work with. The next thing you have is when you have to enter the space, you're going to have to wear safety glasses. Normal glasses are not the same thing. If you have standard glasses, we have glasses with side shields on for you that you can wear over top. That's going to cover your eyes. But whenever you come into this area, you must have safety glasses on. Now let's look at some specific tools.
So here are our rules for our hand tools that you always cut away from your body. You plan and mark all boring and cutting operations. You clamp all materials that is getting cut or drilled. Use both hands on any drilling or cutting operation. Use a backer board on boring operations or drilling. And make sure you ask questions of the staff. So when using a utility knife, that means that you can hold something onto the surface and then just make cuts, making sure to keep your fingers out of the way so that you don't cut yourself within the lab. We have drills and impact drivers. The impact drivers are made for driving screws into material. And so we can just line it up, have both hands on the tool, and then drive it into the material or remove it out of the material if need be. This is one of our drills in the lab. They all have keyless chucks, so you can take it out just by gripping the end and rotating it the other way and holding down. We are going to want you to secure the material and mark your cut before you make it. And then use a backer board so that we don't drill on the table. The backer board is that round circle there. This is our jigsaw. On this, the blade goes up and down to cut material. To work with it, we're going to line up our cut wherever it is. We're then going to secure the material. We want the material to hang off the side of the table to work with. And it's got to be secure because then that allows you to have both hands on the tool and you're able to cut through. It's important to realize that you shouldn't put your hand under the material while you're making cuts. Now we're going to look at our reciprocating saw. Its blade comes out with this paddle on the back side. This should be able to come in and out. And we have woods and metal blades for it. The metal blade teeth are much smaller. You're going to keep both hands on the tool, secure the stock, and just cut downward through whatever material you're working with. Here are the expectations we have for the drill press. You're not allowed to use metal over 1/8 inch thick. You need to use a vise and clamps for anything smaller than 4 inches. You got to hold the piece firmly with your left hand. Use your right hand for the feed. Never touch the rotating drill bit. Secure all bits in the chuck before you use them. Remove the chuck key before starting, and then make sure you ask questions of the staff. Now we're going to look at the drill press. On this tool, we're able to use woods. We're able to use thin metals under 1/8 of an inch, but we're not able to use thick metals because they're going to require some coolants. First, if we need to change our bit, we're going to use our chuck key. We've got ours marked with blue. It's going to crank out for you. Then we're going to have to put in our new bit, get it in the center of the chuck, and then tighten it down. Get it nice and tight. And when you're done, please return it to its proper location right there. Now we're going to drill a hole. We're first going to mark our location and keep our left hand on the material. I want to make sure the drill bit goes all the way through into the plate if that's my goal. And then I'm going to line it up roughly, turn on, and then bring it down through in a smooth, even motion. You should feel it sort of push out the back a little bit, and then I'm going to return and then turn off my drill press. Now for materials that are small, less than 4 inches, we're going to ask that you put it within the vise and then complete the exact same process. That way you have a little more leverage on stock. Here are the expectations of the bandsaw. We're going to be utilizing it for woods and soft plastics. Please mark all your cuts beforehand, position and lock the guard according to the material. Do not place your hand in path of the blade. Use push sticks for through cuts. Use a scroll saw for smaller pieces than a 3 inches, and ask questions of the staff. Now let's look at our bandsaw, and it's called that because if you open the cabinet, you're going to see that it has 2 drums, and the blade is actually a band that goes between these 2 drums. And with this, we're able to cut woods and plastics, but everything needs to be at least 3 inches in width to be able to use on the bandsaw. So if we're going to make a cut, we're going to have you make a line first, and that way there shows some intention with your usage. We're then going to have you drop the guard to where it is 1/4 inch above the material, and that's just going to make it harder for you to get your finger within the blade. Now we'll line up our cut. We're going to turn on the blade, and we're going to slowly take the material through it. And our goal here is to keep our fingers at least 3 inches away from the blade, and then also out of the path of the blade. Depending on the width of the band, in this situation we have about 3/4 of an inch, it's going to be easier to make straight cuts than it will be to make curved cuts. Let's look at an example of an awkward cut. In this situation, I've got to cut the length of this board. And so I'm going to reset the guard to where it's 1/4 inch above my material. And then I'm going to keep my fingers 3 inches away from the blade. And when it is through the material, I'm going to switch to behind it. And then I'm going to use a push stick to guide it through the rest of the way. And that way my fingers never come within that 3 inch radius of the blade. Then I'm going to wait for the blade to stop to be able to remove my material. The last tool we're going to look at is our scroll saw. And it's made for making small radius cuts. And so I'm going to mark out the line that I'm going to make. And then I'm going to adjust the guard. And this is going to work similar to a sewing machine. And so the guard being closer will keep the wood from bouncing while you're cutting it. I can turn it on. I can adjust my feed there with the knob. And then I'm just going to cut through. And I do want to keep my hand out from under that guard and away from the blade. But I'm able to be a little bit more precise with my curves on this tool. And so there you go.
So when you're done working in the lab, please put your batteries on charge. And clean up after yourself. And please have a wonderful day.